space. Some regions are vast and empty, other areas we call closets. Fortunately, Kevin from the Container Store has answers.
Right.
Kevin, what gives you the power over space?
I'd say Alpha customizable closets. With free design and Alpha's adjustable shelving and drawers, I can create space in any size closet.
Kevin, master of space and closets.
Or just Kevin. Plus, right now, save 30% on Alpha and installation and earn up to $500 in credit through February 10th.
At the Container Store, where space comes from.
Where is that music coming from?
Blog Talk Radio.
Okay.
A company always on the run, a destiny, oh, it's the rising sun.
Well, welcome to the Shooter's Rest Radio. We have one of our guests on, Christine Claricuzio, and I'm still waiting for the other guest to call in whenever he gets a chance. This week we're going to be talking about armed and unarmed combat, or self-defense, and should be a good show. So, Christine, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Claricuzio. I am born and raised in New Jersey. I spent a couple years in Naval Prep School, so I do have a little bit of military training behind me. I'm a mixed martial artist in Muay Thai, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu, which I've been studying for about a year. I was also formerly trained in Taekwondo and was a gymnast for about 16 years. I do believe in protecting our Second Amendment rights, so I think that the unarmed and armed defense tactics that we'll be discussing today is going to be a great topic, especially being exposed to both sides of the equation. So I'm looking forward to the show tonight.
Well, Christine, this is Vic Laszlo. I want to welcome you to the show, and looking forward to spending the next hour or so with you. And that's certainly a subject that have had a little wee little bit of combatives, and that's certainly part of the the total package for self-protection is combatives and firearms and situational awareness and all that. So I'm really, really excited about this, and just tickled pink you're here.
Yes, definitely sounds like fun. It's very interesting when you're trained, as in the unarmed defense, which is kind of new to me. But I've taken my training very seriously in the last year. I hope to compete, hopefully in the near future, once I'm healing from this dislocated elbow. But that's part of the the hazards of training. But it's interesting when you're injured and you can't defend yourself the way that you typically would, and that was the first thing that came to mind when I heard about this show. Was really the differences in how I would defend myself now. That's definitely on the table.
Hey, I hate to cut in. I think our other guest is here. We got you?
Yeah, I'm here, guys. Hey, it's Odin here from Canada.
Well, welcome to the Shooter's Rest Radio. I'm Jay, and Victor's on the line, and then Christine's also on the line already.
How y'all doing? Yeah, thank you. Good to talk to you guys.
We'll take a moment and just let you introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do, and then we'll carry on.
Thanks, Jay. I've been teaching advanced close quarter combat to both military and police personnel close to 20 years now. We really do specialize in kind of fighting with weapons, and I don't mean necessarily with edge weapons, but an operator that has to defend himself while he's holding a carbine or a pistol happens more often than not, and we kind of focus on really difficult situations like that for really restrictive spaces. That's the essence of what we do.
So this is Vic here. Are your clients mostly military, law enforcement, civilian, governmental agencies, or kind of a mixture?
We don't actually teach the civilian market, Victor. It's just something we stay away from. There's a lot of people already who do that, and the kind of stuff that we teach Our feeling is that we just don't want it out there for the bad guys. You won't find any of our stuff on YouTube or any other kind of video format like Vimeo. We're really, I don't know, we're really particular about who sees our tactics. Not that it's, the secret squirrel stuff, but it's very efficient, and we just don't want this to be used against soldiers or frontline, law enforcement. So it's military police for right now only. And, I wouldn't be opposed to like a professional security, market or personnel, but for right now, that's our two groups.
Yeah, I subscribe to his email list and the magazines and watch some of the videos. And I tell you what, I'm pretty impressed with a lot of that stuff. So I hope I can go and practice it at some point.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jay. One of the things that we've really taken pride of over the last while is we've actually had our system vetted by a lot of U.S. SOF personnel. And my feeling on it is if you're confident in the system, you really should send it out there to Tier 1 operators and let them take a look at it and dissect it, and then be prepared for what they're going to say. I mean, both negative and positive. We've had all positive comments, but we really are keen on having it validated by the assaulters and door kickers out there to see if this is, kind of what they're looking for, and to say that this will work under, stress, high stress conditions.
Well, like I was saying earlier, I think, combatives and, skill in martial arts, traditional martial arts, be it, combatives-based stuff or more of a traditional martial art is something that a lot of shooters, a lot of self-defense shooters lack. I know that's one of the areas I'm weak in, and I'm looking at, building up my skill set to become a little bit more proficient in that. So, both of y'all, if there was a person who was relatively proficient in the use of firearms, long arms, sidearms, and all that, and wanted to, step into the realm of combatives, how would they go about that? What would be a really good place for them to start?
If it's all right, if I could just go first, I just one quick thing to add about this for the shooters is that a position that's really neglected that we focus on is the stool position, because you can actually use this as your 12 o'clock so that you've got a really safe field of fire for your partner, and you can use this and still bring all of your combatives, into every aspect of self-defense. Because for you to transition a firearm, especially from holster, breaking those safety restraints under stress, has been proven over the last 10 years, it's not going to happen, and especially it's not going to happen if a guy's got an edged weapon against you. So it's really important that if the pistol's out, that you really know what to do with it in terms of being able to not only fire it, but keep it safe so it's not going to be used against you. And we really do focus on that as an integral part of what we teach.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know I went to a terrorism interdiction course with a well-known trainer here last year, and I did the anti-terrorism lecture part of it, but we trained exclusively from Sewell, and one of the exercises was moving through a crowd. We had other class members, kind of milling around, and you would move through, moving through out of your way with it. I guess the NSA is tuning in on it.
Hey, I really apologize for that. My city decided to go through and spray for mosquitoes right when we're doing that.
Anyway, what I was saying is we were trained to move through, people, a crowd in position, Sewell, with a really tight control of your weapon, and the ability to use your left hand to direct people out of your way, and then engage multiple targets. So, Sewell is fantastic. Fantastic. I don't know why more folks out there aren't using it.
Absolutely. Vic, I think you you brought up a really good point before in saying, how do you get into a combative type sport, or what kind of sport would be a good introduction for a typical shooter? And I think a lot of that comes back down to your goals and your objectives. I've had really the honor of training alongside some of our soldiers here in New Jersey with the National Guard. And part of their combatives training is very interesting because they are basically trained to, get away from a person to get to their weapon. In traditional martial arts and combatives training, you don't necessarily have a weapon. So a lot of that's going to be hands-on training. It would be striking training, stand-up. The big question happened for me when I was initially training, because I did take up mixed martial arts as a way to defend myself, was, what happens if I'm knocked to the floor? Learning to fight from your back and learning how to fight from the floor is completely different from being on your feet. And the one thing I will hand to my trainers here in New Jersey is that they have done a phenomenal job in teaching every student that walks through our school is that the first thing that you want to do is get yourself out of the situation. If you can walk away from it or run away from it, you do so. You want to use your combatives training under very extreme circumstances. But obviously in my state, carrying a weapon is almost impossible. So for me, taking up martial arts was very important, just because I know I'm not going to have access to that weapon necessarily. But my understanding, and Odin, please feel free to talk about this, because I have a feeling that there's an overlay here. There is a type of martial art called Krav Maga, which I believe is used by the Israeli Defensive Forces, and to my understanding that has a lot to do with defending yourself in close quarters and also being able to disarm the person as well as getting to your weapon and arming yourself.
Yeah, actually, it's a good point, but I'll tell you, just kudos to you guys south of the border, because operators that do this, I'm just giving you my own opinion, my own armchair kind of quarterbacking here, the best that I've seen is your Ranger units, their combative systems that use while holding carbine is absolutely impeccable, and I find it's relatively unknown even down your side in terms of how proficient they are at this. And they're one of the few units that I know of that do this, but they have a whole integrated hand-to-hand system while holding that carbine, and it's extremely impressive. So you've got takedowns, and the whole concept is to remain standing and to transition back into, field-to-fire arrest control situation. So I can't speak as much for Krav Maga because I don't study traditional martial arts, but for the military sides of things, the Rangers are way, way ahead of the learning curve in terms of integrating, weapons with CQC.
I think my friends are going to be really excited to hear that.
I don't know. Back, I'd say 2004, 2005, and there's a guy that's listening to this that was there when it was introduced to us by a guy that was going through Q course for Special Forces, was Lions training. And, I didn't get a whole lot of training traditionally from it, by the guy that was teaching the classes. I had to go elsewhere and find other people to teach me more. But I really like it because I have a really strong grip. And with Lions training, as long as you can get their hand, you pretty much, you've got them under control. And that's pretty much all I practice and all I do. I should probably pick up a lot more, but it's having that wrist lock or that hand, that hand that you can manipulate somebody's body with, for me is pretty key, because they're going to throw their hand at you with a punch, or they're going to try to grab you, or they're going to try to hit you or get you with a knife or whatever they've got if they don't have a gun. So to me, that having a reflex and being able to just get their hand seems to work best for me.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Submission fighting, and that's a submissive type of submission move. That's a lot of what we study in jiu-jitsu, although it's not usually from a standing position. So that's where my understanding of judo and Krav Maga come in, where they teach those very quick movements to disarm and really disable someone from even continuing any type of movement.
Yeah, and for law enforcement as well, one of the things that we kind of harp on is the whole pistol retention methodology, not, from a simplistic standpoint of just, bearing down on your holster so that he can't get it. There's an enormous amount of angles and possibilities available to you when you're trying to prevent an unlawful disarm, in terms of when we're talking about law enforcement. And our approach is that we teach an enormous amount of takedowns and chokes from that attempt to show the officers that they can swiftly get this guy